Welcome to my Arc Raiders Beginner's Guide. So in today's video we're going to cover the new players that have started on Arc Raiders, as well as some intermediate starters that are sort of finding their feet but a bit unsure. So I'm going to cover settings first. So under settings, it's pretty generic stuff. There's not going to be a lot of stuff you're going to change for graphics. As I say, it depends if you're on PC or console, so I won't worry too much about the graphics. It's just more about some of your accessibility stuff and audio. So first things first, audio I tend to have on night mode. This is just good because it amps up the steps and a few of the other sounds. So it gives them everything a bit of a bass boost, so to speak. So it's a handy little thing to have on. Some people don't notice the difference, however I tend to. It's really, really handy to use. Under the accessibility, the only thing that's really important on here is your crosshair. So I believe the standard is, I want to say the T-cross, if I remember rightly. I didn't find it that great. Some people just use its default. I tend to change it to the rounded diamond. This is a really good learner crosshair shape. I couldn't think of the word there. However, once you've got it perfected with your aim there, then you can switch to whatever you like. But I tend to just use the cross. It's pretty standard across all games. So that's the main things really with the settings. As I say, the settings is really nice and easy. There's not really a lot to it. As I say, the graphical is just based on your PC or console. So the only other thing is making sure your FOV is as high as it'll go, just because you'll benefit more from your field of vision. So now we're going to go and cover the skill tree. So under the skill tree, I use 27, 27, 22. This is again based on opinion. However, it is very, very new player friendly. So what I would advise doing first is starting on the survivor side. The reason being is because your lobbies to start with, while the game's trying to figure out your algorithm of PvP, PvE, it's going to be very much, PvP and PvE heavy. So still be figuring out from your games where you're going to be going. So crafting in game is going to be crucial, right? So agile croucher is good. So you get to obviously get speed increase when crouching. This just allows you to be more mobile and obviously let players around you not know where you are. Obviously you want to stay hidden. Then obviously you've got the squat. So stamina regeneration while crouch is increased. This isn't actually a huge deal. If anything, you could probably take points out of that and put it in agile croucher, to be honest. It might actually prove more benefit. But the key one is in-round crafting. So what this does is the stuff that you go into raid with currently at the beginning of the game is all you can use. If you run out of materials, you're just outright, unless you kill a player and obviously nick their stuff. Where this actually allows you to craft heals and certain items and explosives mid-round. So say you run out and you need something for a specific situation, it allows you to improvise. So that's a very crucial one. The rest are just mainly benefits. So obviously you've got making less noise when looting. So again, less detection from players. When critically hurt, you make less noise. This is another really good important one, increase maximum weight. Obviously, if you're PvP or PvE, it's one of those that obviously loot is all about how much you can carry, right? So with having more loot, you have more weight, which slows your character down. So Arc can kill you, players can kill you. So it's a really important one for PvP and PvE. So these are two really, really key aspects of the skill tree. You can later on down the line, if you want to unlock the security breach, this allows you to loot more stuff. There's a particular container that will only be allowed to be open once you've got this. That actually got nerfed not too long ago, about a month or two ago. So it's one of those that it's not as versatile anymore. I don't think it's that great, so I don't ever use it. So on the mobility side, you do want to have as much mobility as possible with stamina. So we've got the nimble climber. This allows you to climb and escape quicker from either Arc or players. Very, very useful. We've then obviously gone for less stamina usage and increased stamina. Again, there's not really much explanation needed for this. Obviously, you're going to want to get further consuming less stamina. Again, it's not just for players' perspective. It's just to obviously get from A to B. in a quicker time. Obviously, the game is about looting as much as you can, as quick as you can, and getting out, right? So, again, very, very useful parts of the skill tree. Carry the momentum. I preferred that over the stroll, because not very often you're going to stand still, right? It's one of those that I find that you find carrying the momentum more to be strategic and more useful in your gameplay than anything else, because of shooting and dodging and whatnot. So again, very, very useful. Dodge roll costs less stamina. That kind of links in place, really. So obviously you're dodging and then you're sprinting for a short time after, doesn't consume any stamina. So this basically helps you dodge more. So like roll, so to speak. So you're doing 2 or 3 back-to-back rolls if you're in a mid-fight and you're really struggling to escape. It's really handy then. And then you've got, when you're downed, you can crawl faster. So this one, if you don't know, because obviously you're being fairly new to the game, there's an augment called the Survivor Mark III. So what this allows you to do is maintain health at 75% when downed. So effectively, you can crawl to an exfil and leave even though you're downed, because every time you go at a standstill, you'll regen health, right? So that's not what this does. It's the augment that goes with it. But the fact that you can crawl faster allows you to get to an exfil faster before a player kills you. So, and then you've got vaulting is no longer slowed down while exhausted. Again, if you're low on stamina and you need to get over an object because you've got a player chasing you, an arc chasing you like a shredder, this one is key. I would definitely suggest getting that as well. On to the conditioning. So this is, again, personal preference. Not in any way are you having to follow this. A lot of it in the conditioning tree is just quality of life stuff, just speeds things up. So, but wearing a shield doesn't slow you down as much. Again, this is just the bare minimum that you need to put into the tree. And then obviously we've got Blastborn. Your hearing is less affected by nearby explosions. Again, not essential. It sort of just helps you get to the next one on the tree. But it can help. It can help. We've got fight or flight. When you're hurt in combat, regain a fixed amount of stamina. Again, this can be quite essential when you're trying to move around and dodge in different scenarios. It can give you just that tiny little bit of speed, which might win you the fight. And then you've got, when you're critically hurt, your stamina regenerates faster, which again is sort of similar to what I was saying with this one, really, is if you're in those situations where you need to leave and get out as quickly as possible, you can do. The one thing I would say out of this whole skill tree, which is kind of critical and it will help all types of players, is this one. So it's breaching doors and containers takes less time. So if you've got this fully upgraded, I think the time it takes for you to breach a normal container is like 7.5 seconds, I want to say. With this on in place and fully upgraded, it's like 3 seconds, something like that. So as I say, the rest again is just sort of quality of life. So breaching object generates resources, so that's for crafting. Your equipped weapon has less impact on your encumbrance, so again it just basically reduces weight. And then while downed, you take less damage. So again, when players are shooting you, when you're downed and you're going for a res from one of your teammates, obviously the player that's downed, they're going to take less damage, so they survive longer, right? So that's basically it for the skill tree. As I say, it's rough. You can play around with it. I would. It's all based on your own play style. If you're more PvE, PvP, some of these aren't essential. If you're more PvE based, you'll probably get away with getting security breach because you won't need as much in stamina, I would say, or the conditioning. But if you're more PvP, I would focus around what I've got here, just because this is basically gives you a bit of everything and it makes everything far more efficient. So, right, we're going to go on to what you should keep and what you should sell. This is a very common question I get all the time on stream. So, each item has a grade of rarity. So we'll start off at the very bottom, starting off with your greys. So you have your basic materials, your commons. Then you have your greens, which is uncommon. Then you have your blues, which are rare. And then you have your pinks, which are epic. And then your golds, which are legendary. Obviously, each one of these colors, based on... each one of these items based on colors is obviously the difficulty to find and make them, right? So quite often the way I would break it down is if you scrap the gold, you get purple items. if you scrap the purple items, you get blue items. If you scrap blue items, you get green items, and if you scrap green items, you get common items normally. Sometimes you get some green items back. However, if you keep breaking them down, eventually you're going to get back all the way to the basic materials. So the simple answer is everything has its use. And I know that sounds kind of daft, but you want to spend as much time as possible upgrading your stash and just picking up everything that you can. And then once you've hit a point where your stash is full, then start looking into what blueprints you have on your workbenches and focus on crafting the guns you like, because by then you'd have an idea, right? So I really like the anvil, for example. So what I need to craft an anvil is like, say, 5 metal components, which is like your gears, and say some metal parts. So the first thing I'm going to do is look for what makes metal components and metal parts to be able to craft me that gun. So mechanical components, sorry. So first things first, you just look for the first thing you can scrap. So I'm not sure what this can get. There you go. So you can recycle rusted gear, and that gives you both. So then you can look at it that way, if that makes sense. So you want to be doing that. And as I say, you do want to keep a lot of this stuff because you want to future-proof as well, right? So just because you can only craft, say, like an anvil, doesn't stop you from getting stuff ready to build some of the better guns, right? So, as I say, it sounds daft, but try and keep as much as you can. Focus on, you know, your lower tier stuff, work your way up, build your stash up quite well. You're also going to get some good stuff from players as well, don't forget. So if you are into the PvP scenes, you're going to be picking up weapons. You want to keep them to one side. I wouldn't use them straight away. Repair them, get them leveled up, and then obviously go on from there. So, as I say, I know that's a bit vague, but as I said, the simple answer is just keep as much as you can until as late as possible. So then understand what you need those materials for, and then look at scrapping or selling the things that you don't need. I think the only thing that in this game that you don't have to keep or has an effect on you is the blueprints if you've got a duplicate and you've got a tick, or if you've got a trinket which has a little diamond in the bottom left. However, we don't have any in our stash in this moment in time. Moving on to the expedition system. So you go to Raider, go to Projects and Expedition. So essentially what this is basically what it says on here. So you're undertaking an expedition means your raider leaves the Rust Belt for good. Preparing your caravan takes time and resource, and once it departs, much of your progress will be reset. And advantages carry over to your next raider, lasting until the next expedition begins. So this is like a seasonal thing, right? So every 60 days, this resets. So what happens is once you've gathered 6 stages of items, this is what comes up. So you get, this will be reset. So your stash gets reset, inventory blueprints, etc. that you can see on the left-hand side here. And then on the right-hand side is what you get to keep. So you don't have to re-unlock the maps where your level, your cred stays, your merit stays, your trials all stay the same, and all that side of things, right? So there is a few perks to doing it. You do get rewards. So at the end of an expedition, once you've completed it and the window opens, you get XP boosts. So once you've completed it the next season, you get an XP boost. So the level to 75 feels a lot shorter. Scrappy materials is increased weapon repairs, and more stash space. So as I said, I think with each expedition you do, you gain 12 slots, right? And then you also gain skill points as well, based on the amount of value that's in your stash. So the last I checked, it was 5 million. So for 5 skill points, you needed to have 5 million's worth of either items in your stash or in currency in the top. However, this may change because I know there was a few controversies around it being too difficult for casual players. So obviously just keep an eye out for that. I'll cover that with a video if that ever changes. And then you've got different steps to complete in your expedition. So obviously at that point, as I said before, you have 6 stages. You submit items, as you see, 6 out of 6, and it builds this caravan, as they call it, which then completes the expedition. Again, I know that's a bit vague, but it's one of those that as a new starter, you're not going to be really focusing on this straight away. And as you're going to be focusing on your stash, right? So you might already complete one season before wanting to do an expedition, because they are not mandatory at all. So as I say, that covers the expedition. More recently, they have just upgraded the project side and added a trophy display. I'm still looking into what this actually involves, but I believe you hand each of your items in similar to the expedition. This is how the expedition screen normally looks like as well. But after you've handed all these in, you get rewards back. I'm not sure what they are as of yet. However, if that is something you want to see, I can cover that in another video. Heading over to the trials and rank system. So we go to the trials tab under Raider. So trials reset every Monday. So we're on Wednesday right now, so there's 4 days left. So essentially you're given 5 tasks to do, and for each task you get points, right? 4,000 points is what equals 3 stars, and for each star you get a set of rewards. So for 5 of these tasks you can get 5 rewards, so obviously you get 5 lots of 3 stars. The only thing that there's some confusion about, which a lot of players don't know, is the points have to be gathered all in one game. So as you can see here, 3,304 has got me 2 stars. If I want to get 3 stars, I've got to have 1 successful raid where I've got 4,000 points, right? But you have to exfil. If you die, those points reset. And this refreshes every Monday. So you've got the chance every week to earn 5 purple reward 3s, which is a massive boost to your stash. That basically covers trials. Heading over to weapons, shields, and loadouts. Essentially, again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because you're going to learn this yourself. So with weapons, you have obviously different levels, right? So let's just start off with a basic. What you can craft this stitcher here. It would be a level 1. So to start with, you'll be able to craft, I think it's a stitcher, a rattler, a ferro, and a hairpin, right? So these are very common guns. You can put 4 attachments on a lot of these guns. Some of the guns is 3. If you click on it, you've got the option to upgrade. Not in this case, let me just switch it out to level 3. You get the option to upgrade or repair. So you want to go on to upgrade. These gives you buffs, right? So they give you like 50% reduced horizontal recoil, reload time, and durability. And these increase with upgrade. This does not take into account your attachments. So this is just a buff based off of upgrade. So as I say, focus on getting your guns crafted, work on upgrading them, using the materials I was saying about earlier, some of the common and greens. And as you slowly increase your weapon pool, you can then look to do it on other guns again, right? So mine's damaged, so you can repair it, which costs materials, and again, upgrading it. So currently it's on, say, it says 25%, so it's on 21. So you can increase that then by 25%, which is a massive increase. So really, you don't want to be using these guns where possible at level 1 in fights and against Ark. And this covers all weapons. So as I say, you can upgrade these at any point as long as you've got the materials. So again, I'll show one now. So this is a Tempest 1, really, really good gun. Gives you a 16 reduced horizontal recoil and 13% reduced reload time. I'm going to upgrade that now. Now it's at 16.6, but if I upgrade it again, it goes up to 33.3, right? As well as 26% reduced reload time. So once you get this to level 4, this gun is going to absolutely melt people. So I would focus very much on that where you can. In terms of other bits, you have got Loot and Mark 3s. So this is the survivor one I was on about. You've got Loot and Mark 1s. So they reduce your space in your backpack. You give a safe pocket based on your level. Again, this is similar to the weapons and loot. You can swap them out for better ones. You've got a Loot Mark 2, gives you a bit more stash space and an extra safe pocket. And then you've got level 3s, which gives you even more. You do have these tactical ones. So what you want to look for is the little box in the right side. So it says, upon shield break, deploys a small smoke grenade. They do have a little something to offer on each. So do pay attention to them. Have a look before you use them. But most people use the looter mark ones because it's about how much loot you can get in and out with. Other than that, as I say, you have got your shields. So you got light shields, medium shields. I tend to use the light shields a lot because you can use the shield rechargers. If you're using a medium shield, you then either need 2 shield rechargers to charge a shield, or you need 1 medium charger. And then obviously you've got the use of grenades and heals. So you got basic heals, which takes 10 seconds, healing over the period of let's say like 2 seconds. And then you've got herbal, which obviously increases that, right? So you've got better quality bandages. And then blue, which almost heals most of your health instantly. So that basically covers the basics of a free loadout. We now want to focus on the workshop benches. So when you first start, you'll only have the 1 bench, which is the workbench. So this allows you to craft what you can see here based on what materials you have in your stash, which is very, very limited, right? So what you want to do is you want to click on these empty spaces when you first start out and figure out what it is that you need for these gear benches. Obviously, I can't really display it right now, but it will tell you that you need to collect, say, so many cloth to install that bench and vice versa, or it could be currency. Once you've got these benches installed, you're then going to have the ability to craft the basics, like your green stuff, across the board. Again, green and common. Mine's a bit filled out because of the amount of blueprints I've had. But once you've got all of these implemented, you want to have these upgraded ASAP. So you want to go up to the top, to the level up tab. And then at that point, you want to see what materials it is here. So the best example I've got is maybe this one. So if I go to the level up tab, it says I need 3 rusted medical kits, antiseptic and surveyor vaults. So with this, you want to collect these materials in raid, bring them back to your stash and keep them. The best thing to do is track the resource so that when you're in game, it'll tell you when you find it, which will then allow you to upgrade your benches, right? So that when you get blueprints, it allows you to craft stuff like this. So you've got the Combat Mark III, heavy shields, medium shields, and so on. If you can't craft something, it's because you haven't got it upgraded. So like this is a good example. I've got a snap hook blueprint and a photo electronic cloak blueprint, but I can't craft these yet because I haven't upgraded it to level 3. You must upgrade your benches before you can craft a lot of these better blueprints. So again, focus on that where you can. Next is the decks. So this is a really, really good in-game system. This is similar to like your battle passes, so to speak. So in this, you get 2 decks. So you get a goalie deck, starter deck. These do get implemented later on throughout this as the seasons get implemented. So we're going to the starter deck. With these, you get what you call raider tokens and you get cred. So when you complete games and tasks, you get, as I say, cred, which allows you to buy these items. So with the cred, it would say, to unlock this crate, you need 50 cred. So you have your 50 cred, you buy it, and then you get these items to one side. There is different stages, so as you go, some of the items do get better. You do get some in-game currency, which allows you to buy some skins. And there's a few other benefits there as well, cosmetics and so on. So that is the in-game decks. As I say, some of them are a little bit harder. They do need more cred. It's nothing complicated. It's all fairly simple. As I say, it's all really nice to have. And it's all free, by the way. You don't have to spend a penny on unlocking this. This is just all as part of the game to keep you guys interested. And these are the tasks here. So you've got supply drop requested, damage dealt to raiders using heavy ammo weapons, and so on. So they're not difficult challenges, right? And then obviously once you've done that, you get, say, like a bonus reward at the end, which is like 30 for completing 3. So it's nice little features to sort of keep you motivated, keep you playing the game. And as I say, it's the bonuses is it's completely free. So that is the deck system. Now onto the traders. So under the trader tab, you've got 5 different traders. So you've got Celeste, Shani, T and Wen, Lance, and Apollo. So Celeste is a very good one to have because you collect seeds through your Scrappy, which is your chicken. So what you can essentially get with these seeds is metal parts, which is what you need for everything in this game, like crafting every material. So where you can, if you don't actually need any of these materials with the seeds you collect, I keep them and either buy metal parts or chemicals, because these two are the most common for making, say, grenades, weapons, ammo. Very, very useful. And as I say, with the seeds, you can buy all sorts of stuff that helps you craft items throughout the game, including some of your rarer stuff. This does reset every 24 hours. I believe it's 12 o'clock at midnight. So do keep that in mind. They do restock, and there's only so many you can buy in a day. The only stuff that doesn't restock and is just permanently there is your basic materials. This just helps you keep going during the raids. On to Shani, this is security. So this is where you have excess cred. So when you complete your decks, you'll keep earning cred even now. So I finished mine. This then allows you to use the market here to buy random items that you may want. So I'm like, oh, I need a looter Mark II because I ain't got no money and I ain't got the materials to craft it. I'll use my cred. So I buy one. That allows me to then put that in my stash. And now there's one left. So if I die and I want another one and I've got enough cred, I can get another one. So there's a few things here again. Pretty self-explanatory. It just allows you to buy a few bits. Again, this restocks at midnight every day. You've got gun shop. So this uses actual currency that you get from selling stuff throughout the game. So she does basic stuff to more heavy duty and some of your better stuff like anvils. I'm going to buy a few of them ready for tomorrow. Very handy to have. El Toro, again, I'm going to buy some for tomorrow again. Very handy to have because that'll reset at midnight. Same for attachments and a few other basic bits. And it's the same across the board, really. So I won't go through all of these. You'll be able to see for yourself. You've got a bunch of heals. You've got grenades and the gadgets. Just take a minute to go through and read the descriptions of all of them. They are really, really handy to use all in different scenarios. But that's where your sort of in-game market comes in. And lastly, for the main menu for me to share, you've got Scrappy, which start off at level 1. So for each game that you play, you will collect a certain amount of materials, which in this case, I think when you play a game, you collect like 4 of each. You can either then claim them straight away or let it gather up to 50 and then you can claim them. It's completely up to you. But as you level up your Scrappy, it will collect more per game. So I think for me, per game now, it collects like 10. So after like 5 games or 4 games, this is going to be full, right? So what this allows you to do is maintain the materials it needs to craft ammo and all your basic necessities for going into a raid so that you never fall short and you don't have to rely on yourself picking up the materials all the time. So where you can, focus on upgrading Scrappy as soon as possible. I'm telling you, it will save you so much hassle. And if you're struggling for it, I have got a video for this over on my TikTok page. It's the same username, Atomic Jake. Feel free to check that out. It's got a complete in-depth guide on where you find all these materials to upgrade Scrappy and how many stages. So, and that basically covers that. In terms of your leveling up, I'll go into some gameplay now and show you where you can gain XP and the fastest ways with some pro tips for solo versus trios. We're heading to that now. So in this clip, as you can see, we are spawning into Stella Montis. And how this basically works is when you're collecting loot that's just loose on the ground like we are now, you do not gain any XP whatsoever. However, anything that's lootable that's in containers, you gain a very small amount of XP. So it's normally between 200 XP, 500 XP. I think sometimes even about 800 depending on what containers you are looting. This is the same for the husks as well that you can find out in the ground that are around your larger maps such as Dam and Buried City and that side of things. You tend to get a lot of XP through the lootable containers there as well. So as I say, another example will be just this second. So as I'm searching this container, I've picked the item out, I come out of the container and I've gained 200 XP. One thing to keep to note is just because a container has been looted by another player already, if you enter the container and leave the container, that also still gives you the same amount of XP. It's just a scavenger XP amount. So as I say, it's one of those that open as many containers as you possibly can to gain the most XP in a game. And you want to be doing that everywhere you go throughout the whole 25 minutes of a game, just ensuring you're looting as much as possible. The same goes for killing Ark as well. So the more Ark you kill, the more XP you get. So as you see here, I kill a fireball, you gain about 100 XP. And this varies. So the bigger the Ark, the more XP you gain. So you go from, say, the Bastions, Bombardiers, you may get about 2,000 XP for killing them. However, say going on to your Queens and your Matriarchs, if you deal like half of its health in damage, you gain like 2,000 XP, 3,000 XP. And if you manage to kill the Queen, you can get stupid amounts. So it's definitely a really important part. The same goes for killing players. When you kill a player, you get about 400-500 XP, I think. You don't get the XP per kill. I believe it's as and when you open their inventory to loot the body. So definitely do all three things as much as you can across the lower levels to gain the most XP. If you're a PvE player, I just advise to loot and kill as much Ark as you can in one game. And then obviously if you're a PvP player, you'll gain the most XP from killing players and looting them. However, to maximize the time versus XP given, say you only kill 2 players in a game, I would advise obviously you then loot as many crates as possible to gain the most amount of XP in a game. So doing this sort of method, just looting and killing and picking up everything that you can gain like 15,000 XP per game. Sometimes more depending on the events as well, which also take or have an effect on the amount of XP you earn. So please do keep this in mind. We're now going to move on to the animation of getting a kill. So one thing that people may not understand or know about the game is that when you get a kill, a flare tends to go off, which alarms you that that player is down. Some people don't know this, so when they enter their first PvP fight, they put plenty of bullets into a player and they think that that player is then dead. This is not the case. Until you've seen that flare, that player is very much still alive. So as you see now, we're down the player, flare goes off. If you push a player and there's not been a flare and you think that they are down, likelihood they're just hiding behind a container or an object, and it's a case of they've got a good advantage against you, right? So you'll likely die. So as I say, do please take this in mind. If you do see a flare go off, you've downed that player. If you haven't, then obviously they're very much still alive. Thank you very much for tuning in to this video. I hope that this all helps. I know it's been a bit of a longer one than I usually post. However, I wanted to make sure I covered all topics. If you have enjoyed, if you wouldn't mind subscribing and liking, it helps me out a ton. We do stream over on Twitch, YouTube and TikTok on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday between 2:30 and 7:30, and on weekends between the hours of 12 and 10. So feel free to check them out. Thank you very much and see you later.